Everybody, and welcome on this Friday afternoon for our devotion time with Hood Memorial Christian Church. We're glad everyone has decided to join us today. Today, I wanted to spend just a few minutes talking about shadows. There's one of those things that keeps coming up throughout the Bible. It's another theme in the Bible, right? We talked on Monday about the theme of lifting our hands and how that shows itself in many different ways throughout the Bible. And another one of those themes that just keeps coming back in many ways is that of shadows. And I want to talk about a little bit about how Scripture even shows us how shadows can be transformed. So let's just journey a little bit looking through that. Shadows are come throughout the Old Testament and New Testament, but are probably even more prevalent in the Old Testament. You see shadows in 2 Kings. We see shadows, and that image of shadows there is used in a time of conflict. So the reference is the shadow advances 10 intervals, and then we want it to retreat 10 intervals. So it's this image of conflict that we are seeing shadows used. We see standing in the shadows is an image that comes in Jeremiah. Someone is standing in the shadows, and that is referring to the fact that they are without strength. They're standing in the shadows because they can't stand out front. They can't come out of the shadows. They are without strength. In a little bit further, one of the books of the Bible that shadows is used the most is in Job. You'll see Job use the word shadows a lot in talking about his own situation and what's going on. He says to fade away with the sun. So the shadows are fading away with the sun. They are fleeing. They flee like a shadow. It is a land of darkness. So the shadow is talking about this place of darkness. And I wonder how many times in our lives that we feel like that shadows in our lives, when we come to a place and we feel like we're in the shadows. We use that term a lot when we think about being in a dark place, when we think about being in a place that we don't have strength, when we think about being in a place of conflict with others or in a conflict with our own faith. We're in a place of the shadows. So we can relate to these scriptures. We can relate to Job. We can relate to these. And then the other image that comes uses shadow as a place of darkness is the shadow of death, right? That comes throughout the Old Testament as well. It's an image throughout the Old Testament. We even see it in one of the most comforting Psalms, Psalm 23, that we use for a lot of our services. Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And so that there's this realization that there is a darkness in the shadow. It is more like coming to the end, like I can't see the light. We're right. We're in this really dark place. So we recognize that as humans. The Bible does something else that's beautiful. Even in the Old Testament, the Bible transformed the shadows. And so I want to encourage us to think about how we can transform our own shadows. When those places of darkness, those places where we feel on the brink of death, so to speak, where we feel like we have no hope and we can't get out of that place. The shadows can be transformed, because one of the images that shows up the most in the Psalms is the shadow of the wings of the God, the shadow of the Almighty. So then the shadows become a place of protection. The shadows become a place of rest. They become a place of shade and relief, of refuge, it refers to. So shadow of the Almighty is in Psalm 91. And shadow of God's wings. That's one of those that keeps coming up over and over again. In chapter 17, I'm still in the Psalms, 17, verse 8, in chapter 36, verse 7, in chapter 57, verse 1, in chapter 63, verse 7. The Psalms love this image of being under God's wings, being in the shadow of God's wings, that God's got God's arms, wings stretched out, and we are in that protection. We are in that refuge. We are in that rest. So we are then transforming this dark place. We're then transforming this shadow that's cast over us, this place of conflict, this place of lack of strength, that we're then transforming that into our hope, because that shadow can then be transformed into God's wings that's taking care of us. It takes time. Shadows can sometimes be really long, right? We're in that season. We've just hit summer where the sun is starting to get shorter, but those shadows will get longer. So the place of shadows can take a while. But we've got to keep our eyes on that transformation. We've got to keep looking for the shadow of God's wings that will protect and guide and guard and give us the rest we need. So I encourage you to transform those shadows and to help others around you who are living in the shadows to transform their shadows as well. We hope that everyone has a great weekend. And if you would like to join us, we're going to move into a time of prayer. On our prayer line, you can text PRAY to the church number 910-892-2711. I'll see if I can pop that up real quick for us so that you can see it. Join us there, or you can join us on our free conference line now, and that's 563-999-1222. Have a great weekend. We love you all.